On the green card backlog issue, 3% of those who submitted their applications are expected to get their GC this year. The backlog is 34.7 million, and that's mostly Indians who are on the backlog. Can you give me a little clarity on what is the wait list like and when is it going to happen? I believe in some cases it's more than a century's wait.
Right, it is. No, part of this is a legislative problem that Congress will have to address on whether it's the number of legal immigrants, the number of green cards, or the number of people who can become citizens. There's just limits on that. Like any country, I'm sure there's limits here too. And that is frustrating for Indians, I think, because there's so many Indians who want to come to America. And that's a great part of our news, by the way. Second only to Mexicans, or Indian visas last year. The biggest number of students, double the second biggest. Last year, over 245,000 student visas came from India. Number one in adoptions, number one in all these categories that show, 1.4 billion people, a lot of them would love to come to America. And so it's a good problem to have. But a couple things we're changing. One is helping people who have H-1Bs not have to go out of the country to get those renewed. That's going to happen, I hope, with their families soon. We've here in not just Delhi, but across India, increased 60% in a single year with the same number of people, the number of visas that we adjudicated, and brought down wait times by 75%. So again, that would be more a question for Congress to resolve. I certainly would love to see the ability for us to welcome more Indian immigrants legally, welcome more to become green card holders, and also in strategic sectors where we need that sort of workforce. And we've seen how beneficial that has been in our healthcare, in our tech, and other places. So while other countries, I think sometimes their immigrants say, why are you helping Indians so much? We're helping those who help themselves, and we're seeing the positive outcomes.
Does that happen?
Indian-American
Do people
bridge.
come and ask you that? Why Indians?
Oh, of course. Indians complain about Indians, as they should, and we actually are very responsive. It's a huge priority for me, for the president. But the rest of countries are like, wait a second, that isn't even proportionate to the large population of Indians when they have a quarter of the student visas, when they have, the largest group of H-1Bs by far. So India is doing quite well in our system. And our system, I think, is looking at how it can continue to improve and maybe even expand the numbers. But that will require Democrats, Republicans, and independents to come together.
2 points that you mentioned. One is the 75% time.
Decrease.
On the visa appointment, and the other one is the 245,000 students, applicants. So let me get to the visa appointment first. 250 days wait, despite the 75% time limit reduced. So how will you streamline this? Whether 250 is still a long wait.
It is, and too high for me. The president said, Eric, I want you to bring down visa wait times in India. I think it's probably the first time a president ever said that to an ambassador in any country. I don't think presidents even focus on visa wait times, but we all have so many Indian friends who are saying, why is this taking so long, that it even went up to the president. So the reality of that 250 is an average, and I think the typical person is actually under 200 days already. It's difficult with the existing resources. So two different things we're doing. One is we've talked about opening 2 new consulates in the near future, one in Bangalore, another one that will be in Ahmedabad. 2, we're working with the Ministry of External Affairs to put more bodies in India, and they've been very responsive and helpful. For instance, we opened up in Hyderabad, the newest, most expensive, most beautiful consulate anywhere in the world for the U.S., but it was only, the counters were only 1/3 filled because we didn't have enough people approved by the Indian government to come work here. And then we have to, of course, hire them. And last year, as part of the state visit, there was an agreement on that. MEA did a wonderful job, allowed us to hire more. And so you'll see a couple dozen more people come on board this year. Third, we're shipping it out. We have people doing remote adjudications in Washington, in China, where the number of people getting visas has gone way down, and other places around the world. So if there's a consular officer who doesn't have enough work in another country, they're working on Indian visas too. So people around the world, more bodies, looking at future consulates, and then just improving our systems and seeing what ways we can do. But remember, there's 5 million Indians that today already have visas that are good for about a decade to come as tourists. This is only for tourist first-time visits. The rest, there's no wait time in all the other categories for the first time in years.
Click here to watch the full episode.